welcome to Crossfire, the show that dives into the heart of global conflicts, where nations collide, alliances shift, and lives hang in the balance. On tonight's show, we examine the political fallout Gaza ceasefire deal is causing in the Israeli government. Also on the show, we dive deeper into the technological revolution on the battlefield in Ukraine, where remote-controlled vehicles and drones are changing the nature of ground assaults. Stay tuned as we break down these critical developments and explore their impact on the future of global power and security. The peace deal in Gaza is creating a political earthquake in Israel, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition is hanging by a thread. Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, a key far-right figure, has threatened to resign if the ceasefire and hostage exchange deal goes through. And this would deal a major blow to Netanyahu's already fragile government. So is Netanyahu's power about to collapse, or will he manage to hold his coalition together amidst growing dissent? Find out in our next report.
Israeli politics is in turmoil as the pressure mounts over a potential ceasefire and hostage exchange deal with Hamas. The agreement aimed at halting the violence in Gaza and securing the release of 33 hostages has been confirmed by the Prime Minister's office. But back home, it has sparked a fierce backlash from members of Netanyahu's right-wing government. Itamar Ben-Gvir, a key ally of Netanyahu, has been voicing his opposition. He fears the deal could give rise to hostage diplomacy. He has warned that the deal would embolden Hamas, teaching them that they can use hostage takings as leverage to achieve their goals.
לכן, אם העסקה המופקרת תאושר ותצא לפועל, אנחנו חברי עוצמה יהודית נמסור מכתבי התפטרות לראש הממשלה, ועוצמה יהודית לא תהיה חלק מהממשלה ותפרוש ממנה.
Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, a powerful figure within the government, has also criticized the ceasefire. He has demanded that Israel should be able to resume military operations in Gaza once the deal is completed. But the real drama is unfolding inside Netanyahu's Likud party. Minister Amishai Shikli has publicly threatened to resign if the deal includes the withdrawal of Israeli forces from the sensitive Philadelphia corridor. This is the corridor that separates Gaza from Egypt. It is crucial for Israel to prevent cross-border smuggling via underground routes by Hamas. So with Netanyahu's coalition already precarious, these threats could push Israel closer to a political crisis. Even the opposition leader, Yair Lapid, has offered support to Netanyahu, promising to back the Prime Minister in the negotiations. The future of his leadership remains uncertain. As the opposition to the deal is not just limited to political leaders, many Israelis supporting hard-right politicians have also denounced the deal.
And never submit to terror, and never give any part of the living body of Eretz Israel to anybody. Not to leave, as Ramban said, not to leave Eretz Israel to enemies, and not to leave it desolate. We will settle Gaza. We will settle Lebanon. We will settle the entire promised land.
The deal, which will be now presented to Israel's Security Cabinet and government for approval, could lead to a weakening of Israel's political landscape, as Netanyahu may find himself forced into new elections in the coming months. The situation has ignited a fierce debate over the future of Israel's military strategy as well, with critics warning that the deal could endanger the country's long-term security goals. So can Netanyahu survive the political fallout, or will the ceasefire agreement bring his government to its knees? For now, the answer remains unclear.
The conflict in Gaza is not just shaping Israeli politics, it's also reshaping the balance of power across West Asia. As the ceasefire deal takes effect, many of the region's most influential Islamist militant groups, from Hamas to Hezbollah, are facing a devastating defeat. But as these groups weaken, could the West Asia be on the brink of a new era of political realignment? Find out in our next report.
The ceasefire deal in Gaza is expected to begin this Sunday. It will set off a wave of political and military shifts that will likely be felt across West Asia for years to come. After 15 months of war with Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah, and other Islamist militant groups are now emerging from the conflict considerably weakened. For Hamas, simply surviving the conflict is a major achievement, but the organization's military strength has been severely degraded, with many of its top leaders, including the mastermind behind the October 7, 2023 attack, Yahya Sinwar, and Ismail Haniyeh, getting killed in the war. The leadership of Hamas is now split between hardliners in Gaza and more pragmatic leaders based abroad. And in Gaza, the local population is growing increasingly disillusioned with the group's failure to protect civilians amidst the destruction of their homes. The war has left over 46,000 dead, with millions displaced in the Palestinian enclave. But one of the most significant shifts has come in Hezbollah's power in Lebanon. Once a dominant force in the axis of resistance, the group has suffered massive losses in its battle with Israel. This includes the destruction of much of its arsenal and the loss of key leadership figures like Hassan Nasrallah. In Syria, the fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime has also dealt a devastating blow to the Hezbollah's logistics network. While pro-Iranian militias in Iraq have been largely ineffective in their attempts to inflict damage on Israel, Iran, the arch nemesis of Israel and the key backer of these groups, is also in a weakened position. It's only the Houthis in Yemen who are still active, but their capabilities and influence are far more limited than those of Hamas and Hezbollah before the conflict. However, the shifts don't stop there. The success of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, an Islamist group in Syria, represents a new model of pragmatic extremism. Led by Ahmad al-Shara, the group has made efforts to present itself as a more moderate force while continuing to fight for Islamic rule in Syria. It has been reaching out to minorities and downplayed religious agendas. So as these major groups decline, a broader question emerges. Will West Asia finally move away from violent extremism as a political tool? Or will new, more pragmatic forms of Islamist ideology fill the vacuum left by the collapse of Hamas, Hezbollah, and others? As the ceasefire holds, many hope that the region could see a shift towards stability. But experts warn that the road to peace is fraught with challenges, and long-term outcomes are still uncertain. Bureau Report, India Today Global.
Now, on the front lines in Ukraine, a new form of warfare is emerging, one that relies on cutting-edge technology to keep soldiers out of harm's way. Ukrainian forces have pioneered the use of remote-controlled ground vehicles to clear mines and launch attacks, marking a major milestone in modern warfare. Find out in our next report how these unmanned vehicles are helping Ukrainian soldiers turn the tide on the battlefield.
As the war in Ukraine enters its third year, both sides are increasingly turning to technology to gain an edge on the battlefield. In the Kharkiv region, Ukraine's Katia Brigade has been carrying out tasks that could result in massive loss of personnel. But here's an interesting part. These tasks are being carried out by unmanned ground vehicles. These boxy machine gun equipped vehicles are guided remotely by operators located far from the front lines, sparing soldiers from the heavy artillery fire that rains down the battlefield. In one of the first documented machine-only assaults, Katia deployed unmanned vehicles to clear mines, lay new ones, and carry out attacks in support of infantry operations. The success of this strategy could pave the way for further advancements in the use of robotic warfare. Ukraine is also deploying drones along with these vehicles, using them for spying and to provide real-time battlefield intelligence. These drones are capable of guiding the UGV's targets, enhancing their precision and effectiveness. The development of such technologies is part of Ukraine's strategy to compensate for the smaller, less equipped military. The use of such remotely operated systems allow Ukraine to reduce the risk of its soldiers while still maintaining offensive capabilities. But as Ukraine pushes the envelope with these innovations, Russia is quickly adapting. The Russian military has begun to deploy its own drones and unmanned vehicles, forcing Ukraine's forces to stay one step ahead. Ukrainian engineers and defense companies are ramping up domestic production of remote control technology backed by government funding. This grassroots innovation could prove to be a game changer for Kiev. And for now, the remote control assault units are providing a glimpse into the future of warfare, one where human soldiers may not always be on the front lines, but machines may carry the heaviest burdens in battle.
Well, that's all we have for you in this edition of Crossfire. Stay tuned to India Today Global, where we simplify geopolitics for you.